Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, joined by two of the best in the business at breaking down injuries and news. Justin Fan from Underdog Fantasy and Mike Gallagher from Established Run. 8-game slate on tap. Justin, how are you on this fine St. Patrick's Day?
Not drinking, not having fun, not watching any March Madness. We're grinding NBA news just like any other day. So good to be back. Took a little bit of a day last week to recharge, and I'm glad to be joining you guys again.
Yeah, not a ounce of green from the three of us today. So really celebrating the holiday well. Mike, how are you?
Well, I have a green screen, so I wore all green. I wore like a light green shirt and green shorts on my hike. I'm actually wearing my green shorts still, so
Yeah.
I'm wearing green. But
Okay, well, good for
and
you.
we're gonna be making green today, of course.
Hopefully.
Yeah. No, we got it.
Let's get into the injury stuff. Let's start with the biggest news of the slate. A lot of late game injury stuff. This is not one of the later games. Stephen Curry, as the Warriors on the East Coast today in Atlanta, questionable left thumb injury. Justin, any indication on whether Steph will be available tonight? Of course, Trey suspended tonight, will not be available for Golden State.
Yeah, so Steve Kerr went on a radio show yesterday, said he expects Steph Curry to play. So that's our expectation right now. We have him probable on the back end. Would not expect any limitations with that thumb either. And so we're expecting the starting lineup to be Steph, Dante DiVincenzo, Klay Thompson, Jonathan Kuminga, and Kevon Looney, who is probable as well, but should be able to keep that streak going. Just an amazing game environment, though, in this one, 248 total. We've seen the Warriors defense. I mean, their offense has been pretty stable from home to road, but it's been their defense that's really fallen off a cliff on the road, and it's been the reason why they've lost so many games. They're third in defensive rating at home and 28th in defensive efficiency on the road. So they lose Draymond Green to go from Draymond to Kuminga, Draymond to Jordan Poole, worsens their defense even more in this one. So interested to see what Jonathan Kuminga's minutes look like. So he played 18 and a half off the bench last game in that return from that sprained ankle. He's averaged 29 as a starter this season. I have him, I think, around I've been going for like 26 to 28 was my range. I'm curious to see where you guys have him at. But this is a good matchup for him. He's 83rd percentile this season in shot attempts at the rim and matches up well in this spot against the Hawks. Steph, obviously a smash. We've seen what he's been doing, what he did on national TV against the Clippers. And then a good Looney spot too here against a bigger front court. He should close this game and be in the higher end of his minutes range. Last guy I want to touch on, Klay Thompson. I think he's an excellent GPP play. Like I said, great game environment. And we saw him a couple months ago. He hung 54 with 10 threes on this defense. That was without Steph, obviously, but he always has that eruption potential on any given night.
A couple things to add. I would keep an eye on the back-to-back. They play Memphis tomorrow, arguably a bigger game. So that's something I just wanted to note. I think this is an awesome Kuminga spot. The Hawks are getting killed at the rim since Quinn Snyder took over. So we've seen Kuminga. He was setting a lot of screens for Steph late in the game, closed. And it struck me with the short rotation as a minutes cap. We saw him roll his ankle. He was in a walking boot like this time last week. So I think his minutes are going to come up. And we talk about this a lot. I mean, he's really figured out his role. Dink's big on this and saying like, hey, man, just stick to your role. That's kind of the Warrior way. So, but I expect him to potentially play a lot if things go well. I still think Jordan Poole is going to have a tough time finding big minutes here, especially in this matchup with a lot of guards that could really attack them. We saw Jordan Poole lose like a half rotation in the fourth quarter, which made us very happy as he was not supposed to come out. They subbed him out in non-Steph minutes. Steph was still getting his rest in the fourth quarter. Comes out, kicks the chair. He was pretty frustrated. So we saw Poole get a freaking late three, which barely hit our under. But keep an eye. I think Steph could play a lot. I mean, we saw him. He got 31 minutes before he got to the fourth. 8 minutes came out. He would have hit 40 if the game was close. So put up or shut up time, man. These Warriors team, these guys need to win really bad back to back too. So
is this a little too galaxy brain? I think there might be some sneaky blowout risk here in the first leg of back to back. If this one ends up getting a little out of hand early, do you think there's potential for minutes to be curbed here? If it's like 15 heading into the fourth or something. We know how bad this Warriors defense is, and you take away Draymond Green too. I just think maybe there's a little bit of downside with the minutes here in this spot that we're maybe not recognizing.
Yeah, I was considering cover boying Steph, but I was like, okay, that's basically why I didn't. Is they have the back to back and he's questionable. There's just no way I could cover boy a guy who has like downside. But the Draymond stuff too, right? I mean, we've seen their rim defense falls off, and it's, as you kind of mentioned with the road stuff. So their like frequency stuff is like similar for how they give up shots, but their efficiency against is really bad at the rim, and on 3-pointers, their 3-point efficiency against is really shot up. It's very odd. And we don't recognize this road split thing. It's like usually we're like, oh yeah, we got to pay attention to it. It's a whole season, so it's really weird.
Last note I'd leave on the Warriors is they did convert Anthony Lamb to a full contract, so they'll have him available. They had not been able to play him because he had run out of 2A games. Ty Jerome's still up against that threshold, so I would assume that they'd still be very, very cautious with Ty Jerome. Any notes there, Justin?
Where would you range Kuminga's minutes, Dink, right
now? Probably 20... 24 to 33, 34 probably. I mean, it's pretty wide.
Yeah,
we have him at 27.5, which feels okay to me.
Ooh.
Kerr
loves that dude, man.
I said I've been going back between 26 and 28 myself.
I mean, if you think Kerr loves that dude, you should check out our minutes projections team, because we are always high on Kuminga, because we had Kuminga at 24.5 last game. He plays 18-19. I think we love Kuminga. I think the people who work on our minutes love Kuminga more than Steve Kerr. But yeah,
well, no, I'm saying Kerr loves Lamb.
Oh, loves Lamb. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I think the range of outcomes is just really wide for Kuminga, but they're replacing a guy who, playing 30 plus a night. So they don't have a ton of bodies, even if Kuminga, the bad Kuminga rears his head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's get to the Spurs. They, for the first time in a long time, don't have Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson listed on the injury report. They do have no Doug McDermott. Keita Bates-Diop is listed as questionable. No Devontae Graham, no Romeo Langford. So it's still a mix of injuries for the Spurs to diagnose and work through. But they have their main guys. They haven't had their main guys a lot this year. One of the interesting things for me is trying to figure out what that means for Jeremy Sohan, who's had this huge explosion of usage rate in the last 20 games or so. But that's largely been without multiple pieces of this group. So Justin, I'll start with you. What are your expectations for what the Spurs look like tonight? Because we've seen just them and the Pistons every slate. I feel like I'm coming up with new rates projections based on who's in and out. What are your thoughts on what the Spurs look like tonight with Jones, Vassell, and Keldon kind of all back together?
Yeah, I've mostly been interested in the Spurs when they've been shorthanded, and they're fuller than they've been in a while, just with their top end guys. So they pretty much can rock their full starting five tonight. I'm assuming Trey Jones gets a start again ahead of Malachi Branham. Trey going 32 last game told me a lot about him being off a minutes limit and him being unrestricted. So I mean, Trey, Keldon, Vassell, Sohan, Collins is going to be their normal starting five, and then they have depth beyond that, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks when they've been short. So am I really interested in anyone? Maybe Devin Vassell against his Grizzlies defense? No. I'm interested in this team when they're short, and when they have their guys. I think there's just a little bit too much wonkiness with the Spurs in general, with their tanking risk down the stretch. They have too many of their top guys healthy. They're playing a really solid defense overall. Just don't want a ton to do with the Spurs over, as a whole, today in the slate. But besides Vassell, who I think can have a good game.
100%. Yeah, Keldon's really struggled with Dylan Brooks. The last two games he's been held I think 5 of 17 and 4 of 12 or really bad games. So yeah, Vassell 3-point funnel-ish. They obviously have great paint defense that's held up no matter. They'll have adjustment periods as they learn how to play with new guys, but they've been playing pretty good paint defense. And should add, the Spurs, they were a team we would constantly pick on. They've been 17th in defensive rating since the break. So we're getting, almost double-digit sample. They've been better. Their schedule's been part of that. But largely, Jeremy Sohan's been tough. He's been handling we would be, this time last month. I'm like, oh my God, jam Desmond Bain, jam a trade, Tyus Jones against his brother, this and that. But it's not as great of a matchup. I still think that there's ways that they could pop off. But I just want to give Pop and the young guys some credit. Keep an eye on Malachi Branham. Man, he had a short rotation in the first half, goes flames. I believe he hit his first 6 or 7 shots, goes for 20 and 29, picks up minutes late in the game. Looked great with a shoulder impingement. Stunning return after injury. So, but also should note too, Sandro Mamakashvili was subbing in as a 4 2 games ago, just from the rotation sub pattern. So he's a little bit sneaky here if Keita Bates-Diop doesn't play. I still think he could have a path to like 22, 23 minutes, shoots the 3, runs some DHO stuff they were running with him. So he's got still, if he's cheap, I haven't looked yet, he's still someone, if you want to get a cheap piece of this game, I don't hate him. And you can space the floor too. So I think the front court still has maybe a little bit of juice. But with the back court, all those guys back, you can't be looking at some of those cheap guys.
Yeah, to answer Dean's question too, like Sohan's usage rate is like 27% of the last 10 games. I would expect that to be way closer to 20 now that they're fuller. Maybe gets up to mid 20 some games, some matchups. He's like 19 on the season, I think. His usage rate. So
we looked into it in his first like 25 games of the season or so. He was like 15%. And so it's been a big change, and they've orchestrated a lot of offense for him. So I know a lot of people in basketball leagues, are rooting on Sohan towards the end here. And I know for me, like trying to figure out versus the props market, what's the true usage rate for him going forward is going to be something that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to.
He's going to handle, though. I mean, he's going to be a secondary ball handler for this team, even with these guys back. I would expect him to bring the ball up off rebounds and, be a part of the offense. He's really, really blossomed. He used to just be like kind of a, this guy I got a matchup I can score on. They actually run stuff for him now. So he's really taken off.
Yeah. All right, let's move to Chicago. Alex Caruso, illness designation, questionable tag once again. Gallagher, any thoughts on Caruso's availability tonight for the Bulls?
Yeah, didn't go through practice. I haven't seen shoot-around news. I haven't been too plugged in, though. I don't fan chime in if you see anything. But, we talked about this illness getting the midday last game. So 2 days. I've noted before that, the illnesses usually would be like a 1 day you're back, but it's been a little longer this year. So pretty unclear. Mild surprise that they started Aya DeSumo instead of Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams still got pretty good minutes. Actually played great. Was a pretty good DFS option with his 5 stocks. But expect Caruso back. He'd be picking up the Anthony Edwards assignment. Really tough matchup. Bulls defense has been very good for a while here. They are a 3-point funnel. They are giving up huge volume to threes right now as their paint defense has been really, really strong. So I still think Ant could maybe get it going, but not having Caruso would make it a little bit better for him.
Yep, don't have much to add. The Aaron Fox last game without Caruso go for 32, so that would swing a decent amount going from Caruso to anyone else for Ant.
Rudy Gobert back-to-back questionable tag. Naz Reid questionable tag. We've seen these Minnesota questionables all year long be pretty conservative. Justin, what are your thoughts on the availability for the Minnesota Bigs tonight in this matchup against the Bulls?
Yeah, so this is another spot. We have a couple of these like front leg of back-to-backs where I wouldn't be as concerned about guys sitting, but it is because it's a front leg of back-to-back. I'm a little concerned. This is a spot for Minnesota where they play tomorrow too, so I could definitely see Rudy sitting out one of these 2 legs. He's been questionable with the sprained ankle the last 2 games and played through the tag both games, but they have Naz Reid in there. They have some depth. And yeah, would it surprise me if Rudy sat out today? Absolutely not. And I think that even if Rudy does end up playing both legs, we can see the minutes scaled back a little bit, where he's playing like 27 to 29 minutes in both those legs instead of his usual 31, 30. So we saw Naz Reid played really well off the bench on Wednesday. That split was like 29-19. So could see like 28-20, 27-21 for both these legs, Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, a couple things to note. So when he was missing back-to-backs, that was off a groin injury, soft tissues. Talk about that is usually when the medical staff has a little bit more hands-on approach on making sure guys are sitting. Since that was kind of healed up, he did play in a back-to-back really to start the month. He played 27 and 31 minutes in a close game. So as you mentioned, look, probably a little bit of a, he probably doesn't have like 36, 37 in him here. But I'd expect him to play, be a little bit surprised. But definitely this is not as you kind of mentioned, don't like ignore this. And as I've been saying, don't ignore probable tags anymore. They're probable tags, treat them as questionable tags. We'll talk about that in a second. But then just another side note, Jaden McDaniels has picked up DeMar DeRozan in this match. I'm sorry, picked up Zach LaVine in this matchup, which is odd, right? You'd think he would guard DeRozan. So it's kind of rubbed me the wrong way. This is when they had Kyle Anderson at the 4 too. So, and Kyle Anderson picked up the DeMar stuff. It's interesting. So I don't have like a strong take on who McDaniels is going to get, but history has shown they want to put him on LaVine. So it would be a really good spot for DeMar if that does happen, but I could be wrong. So a lot of ways to go.
All right, let's move to Boston and Portland, where there's a lot of injury tag issues here. Jason Tatum, questionable for Boston, is the biggest one. Justin, any indication on Tatum's availability tonight?
It's another spot that I mentioned, front end of that back-to-back for the Celtics, to where I'm a little bit more concerned here for Tatum just because of that situation. And we've seen Tatum sit out the last 2 back-to-backs that Boston has had, so he has some history too of being cautious. He took a hard fall on this hip on Wednesday after that flagrant foul from Rudy Gobert in the game, but afterwards he said he's pretty sore, that he's going to keep icing it. So would not surprise me if he's held out at this one and ends up playing tomorrow, gives him an extra day to get that hip right. So if he ends up sitting out, would expect Grant Williams to move in the starting lineup. We've seen actually Muscala. Muscala has actually started the last 2 games he's missed, but I think that's circumstantial. There was one matchup against the Cavs in there, I think, where it made sense matchup-wise, but I would expect it to be Grant Williams, and we see more Sam Hauser as well. And then big bumps for Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon in terms of usage. Jaylen Brown would be the guy. He's actually been the Celtics' best player for like a month now. So he would just go through the roof. You look at the on-off stuff with Tatum off the court. His usage has significantly increased, unsurprisingly. So Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon would be the 3 Celtics I'd look at the most here if Tatum ends up missing.
Yeah, Brown's last 7, 37 and 4. He is scoring extremely well, scoring in half-court sets, which usually like design stuff, like I was just saying with Sohan, is like he was very much a guy who figure out where he fits. He's like been a centerpiece of the offense next to Tatum, with Tatum struggling a little bit. So don't have much to add. That back-to-back definitely a huge factor. We know Tatum plays through a ton of stuff, so I think he's gonna play. And then also, as you mentioned, with those back-to-backs, it was clear maintenance because he came back and played full in those. Brogdon's minutes have been turning up. He hasn't been able to do anything with them from a DFS standpoint. But I mean, the Blazers' defense is really bad. So Tatum's in. They've really pushed down Marcus Smart's role wise as Brogdon just comes in there and handles his business. I'd be into Brogdon again.
On the other side of that, for Portland, you've got Jeremy Grant listed questionable, Damian Lillard on the injury report listed probable tonight. Any concerns here, Justin?
I think the expectation originally from some of the Blazers beats was that Jeremy Grant would miss multiple games. So I think there's a pretty good chance he misses again. And the question just becomes who starts for Jeremy Grant if he ends up missing. Is it Trendon Watford? Is it Cam Reddish? We saw a lot of Trendon Watford last game, a lot more than I thought it would be. He played 40 minutes to Cam Reddish's 19. I'll defer to Mike to see who he thinks will start. I would probably just lean Watford just because he played 40 minutes off of last game. But what do you think, Mike?
I'd be shocked if he started, honestly. I think it just makes way too much sense to start Cam Reddish to me, just given the matchup. I think they're going to want to use Trendon Watford as the backup center. We saw this when Nurk came back, and I was really big on this, that Watford was going to eat up most of the center minutes behind Nurk. Nurk was capped more than we thought. So I think Watford slots in that the second center role, and then they go small with Cam Reddish. Matisse Thybulle did a bang-up job on Jaylen Brown in the matchup earlier this year in the minutes they were out there together. So, I'd be pretty surprised if Watford started. Should mention, again, don't ignore these probable tags. As Chris Haynes reported, Damian Lillard was, quote, urged to sit the game that he missed. But it sounds like this should be good. That was a road game. I think that's also another layer to this rest stuff we're figuring out. I think teams generally want to play their guys at home, but yeah, late game, you got a game that's one game after that with Dallas and LA, so you could wiggle out of stuff, but and again a pretty good game environment as well. But yeah, keep an eye on that if Grant's out. And I think it's contusion of his quad, so been off for a couple days, had the injury on Sunday, so I think he may have a decent chance to play.
Let's move to that Dallas LA game where Luka Doncic still listed out. There was some optimism after hearing they traveled with the team last game that we might be getting closer, but still listed out immediately. No questionable tag. Questionable tags galore, though. Tim Hardaway Jr., Kyrie Irving, JaVale McGee, and Markieff Morris here. Justin, any reads on if we see Kyrie tonight or if we continue to see kind of the more shortened, watered-down version of the Mavericks?
Yeah, so Kyrie was participating in shoot around. That just came out like 10, 15 minutes ago. He was putting up shots. Before that piece of information, I would have leaned more doubtful just because he had some comments recently that were more like, I'm more concerned with my longer term health. I want to make sure this gets right. It hinted at a little bit more of an absence, but just given his participation in shoot around this morning, he fully practiced along with THJ yesterday. I think there's a decent chance that Kyrie goes. I feel better that THJ goes out of the two. I'll say that. But yeah, I think this matchup against the Lakers obviously gets tougher with AD back in the lineup, though we love targeting D'Angelo Russell no matter what. So whoever's in there at point guard for the Mavs, whether it be Kyrie or Jaden Hardy, I think is set up for success. But yeah, I think getting THJ back, kind of removes some of these other supporting guys out of the mix. Want to also talk about Christian Wood. Like, what do you expect from him? Obviously went off last game, off the bench. What do we think of his spot, tonight against the Lakers?
Quickly to add, Mark Medina just added that Tim Hardaway Jr. said he's going to play tonight, and quote, it's not clear what Kyrie's availability will be until game time. So we'll get probably a game time decision on Kyrie. You mentioned the practice and shoot around notes as well. So Christian Wood, I wanted to play him so bad in DFS. I couldn't pull the trigger. Chris Lafficus did have the stones and it worked out. So I just want to talk about what happened in overtime. I won't talk about the play that led to overtime. I just want to talk about the overtime. They ran the same set like every time. They ran a little horn set, gave the ball to Wood, a little elbow screen from Dwight Powell, and then run like a little big pick and roll, and it worked like every time, and they blew him out. He was big, man. So I think if Kyrie's out, that's where I want to go. I think Christian Wood's impact, the matchup's going to be kind of bad against AD. Against the defense has been pretty good, number 2 since the break. But I think Christian Wood's minutes should be pretty strong. They need the offense. Jaden Hardy could not finish around the basket. I mean, if the basket was like twice the size, he still would have probably shot maybe like 7 of 17. He missed so many layups, like by a lot. But Hardy,
that overtime was sweaty for the Jaden Hardy PRAs. I think it was between. It was 31.5 or 32.5, depending on where you got it. I think Underdog had it 31.5 for a little bit. Then we bumped it to 32.5. I think I got a little down on 31.5, and I think he finished at 32 if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that was.
Yeah, we had 32. We had 32.5 under.
Okay.
We did this. This was tight. This is way tighter for us, but me and Chris Lafficus felt really strongly about it. So we went a little off, but I just felt like, oh my God, this guy Jaden Hardy. Look at this number. This guy's number is bigger than like Keldon Johnson and these proven players, but the role is huge. Thankfully,
you were a big dog heading into overtime to go under.
Oh, big dog!
He did nothing pretty much in overtime.
Yeah, huge dog. I think he won like 2 PRA in overtime.
Yeah,
actually, no, he had 3. He had 3. That's it.
Yeah, he had 29.
He had a 3.
He had 29.
He had 3. I was like, oh God, I was tilting my face off because we normally would not have fired that, but Chris Lafficus pushed it through. Anyways, he would go if Kyrie's in. Jaden Hardy's value hinges on that hardcore. He would be a guy we'd be down to play. Great matchup as you mentioned, but if Kyrie's in, you can't touch him. I still think Josh Green still has a pretty big role. He's been really good, man. The things he's doing on offense, they're running sets for him. He's not like again, this is like a big thing for the show today. These young guys picking up bigger, actually schemed up stuff. So he's been awesome, man. Just shooting the ball well. His passing's really good. Dwight Powell, gotta just mention Dwight Powell. So he benefited big time from Hardy just getting downhill, scoring. I want to say all 4 of his rebounds were putback points. So, essentially scoring, 3 PRA on those Hardy misses each time. So, but a whole lot going on here. I expect them to start either Hardy or Kyrie, Green, Bullock, THJ, yep, and then Dwight Powell at the center spot.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move to the doubtfuls and the outs. Still no Jared Allen for Cleveland. Any notes on when we'll see Jared Allen? Have you seen anything, Justin?
Yeah, there was a quote that they were optimistic it'd be sooner rather than later. I think that came out yesterday, I believe. And they just feel fortunate that it wasn't worse than what it was. So I would think he probably misses another game, maybe 2 games, but should be back in the near future. But yeah, we should see Lamar Stevens, Evan Mobley again in that front court. Mobley has shown nice minutes in close games. 2 of the last 3 games have been close. He's gone 39 in both those close games. Love the matchup versus Daniel Gafford. We've seen big minutes from Karis LeVert as well in those close games, 34 and 36 for him in those spots. And then good spots for Donnie and Garland as well. The Wizards have been a little worse defending shooting guards, and Donnie has a little bit more upside overall, so I would lean him. But good spots overall for Evan Mobley, Mitchell, and Garland.
Yeah, I gave Mobley the cover boy for matchups today.
Wow.
Front court touches are up. Minutes have been huge. I think the Cavs really want this game. So, I really like him. You highlighted the Wizards defense has been really bad in transition. I'd love to see the Cavs push the pace a little bit. And then, as I mentioned, the matchups, low-key benefits Bradley Beal just because Evan Mobley's ability to roam and help on ball handlers has really been able to snuff out some scores. So Mobley being more of a rim protector, I think, helps Bradley Beal in like a significant way. Just to add to what you said about Allen, Bickerstaff said like they don't know. They're just like, okay, maybe one day he wakes up and his eye's better. So they're just kind of wait and see approach. It's not that the Cavs don't do this, but like maybe one of these days he gets upgraded midday or something like that. So just something to keep in mind going forward.
Yeah.
76ers on the back-to-back, Jalen McDaniels ruled out fairly early. This was an original questionable tag, then ruled out. Any other Sixers shenanigans we should be on the lookout for? Mike, I'll start with you.
Always, man, always, especially in a back-to-back. But Embiid's gunning for it, and he's playing the best ball of the season right now. So the matchup is the nuts. The Hornets are actually defending a lot better. I think they're second since the breaker. They're up there. Their paint defense has been a little bit better. They're shooting like they used to give. They're so weird. They went from like, okay, they're a bad rim defense. Oh, they're a bad 3-point defense. Oh, no, they're all over the place now. But they've kind of figured things out defensively. It's still Embiid. He's going to absolutely smash Nick Dix. Also good matchup for Harden too. I mean, they're asking a lot out of the Hornets, and should to add, Bryce McGowan's got called up. It would have been really nice if he was out, but it looks like they're going to have him out there.
Yeah, a couple of rotation things on McDaniels being out. A little surprised he's not coming back to play the Hornets today in a little bit of revenge. He got rolled out a little early. But we saw Doc play a really tight rotation on Wednesday. Essentially went 9-man. Their starters, Milton, and Niang off the bench. And then Daniel House only played 16 seconds in the first half. And then Paul Reed didn't play at all in the second half. Doc used PJ Tucker as the backup center down the stretch instead. Another thing to note, DeAnthony Melton's minutes really trending down as of late from 32 to 24 to 21 to 15 last game. He's starting to lose. Lost to Milton last game, who saw a little bit of a bump. But any MB questionable tags, I'm pretty much ignoring the rest of the way. We've seen the MVP race really start to flip with the Nuggets struggling, and Embiid, wants to make a statement every game down the stretch after finishing second each of the last 2 years. So we've seen, Mark Williams get destroyed, and then Nick Richards has stepped in, and Blocker Kessler went 17 and 16 against him. Evan Mobley went 26 and 6 against him. So this should be a nom spot for Joel Embiid tonight in this one.
Yeah, one thing to add, losing those minutes against the Cavs with two really strong guards, that was stunning to me.
Yeah, not great for my guy. Let's move to Atlanta. Jalen Johnson had a probable tag this morning that quickly turned into an out tag. We talked about this matchup with Golden State being one to potentially target, but this could make Atlanta a little bit thinner on the rotation side as well. Do we see AJ Griffin in the mix tonight? Justin, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I did throw him in the mix. I saw something on the timeline earlier about, I think when the Beats was expecting Griffin to get in there. So, yeah, I mean, Jalen was playing like teens minutes. I think, you can give that role and some of those minutes to Griffin. But yeah, I don't think it makes a ton of a change. Maybe it gives a little bit more of a floor to some of these front court players, but it didn't change things a ton on my end. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much with you there. And yeah, as I've been saying, man, we talked about this in our Slack. We were talking about the Hawks minutes, and I was like, keep an eye on Jalen Johnson. He might play with that probable tag, hamstring tightness, and like he got rolled out a half an hour later. Probable tags, man, can't trust them these days. But yeah, I think this helps out Bay a little bit. Helps out, Hunter Collins. I think has a little bit more of a floor here as well. We've seen a little bit of overlap with Collins and Sadiq Bey, mostly back up behind him. But yeah, helps out. Not a back-to-back for the Hawks. Could be some minute ceiling. We already talked about the Warriors defense. So yeah, this game's really fun to attack.
Yeah, I think the tweet was, would guess Griffin is the 9th man tonight with Sadiq Bey playing a chunk of his minutes at the 4 from Brad Rowland. That was the one I was referring to.
Pretty
that's my one note would just be with the Warriors without Draymond Green, they're going to have to play smaller on the whole naturally. This could be a spot that we've seen Sadiq Bey's minutes like really ramp up at different points. This could be a spot that he so you look at the box score at the end of the night and he's 32 minutes and you're like, oh, that's surprising off the bench. That's my one little note here is that Atlanta could end up going like really tight. And they just extended Bogdanovich, so he gets a little bit of a boost as well in terms of playing time expectations. But I could see them like leaning into, the starters and then the bench of just Bogdanovich, Bey, and Okongwu, and maybe a little bit of Griffin, right? And if that's the case, like you could see really big minute ceilings here for a lot of the Atlanta guys.
Sadiq Bey versus the Warriors, the team that we thought we was on for like 5 minutes until it was GP2 or draft picks instead.
Yeah. Let's move to the probables and returns. We talked about the Hornets having McGowan's available. Let's talk about Washington with Kyle Kuzma back in the mix. Kyle Kuzma, one of the more durable players in the league, just with all these missed games during the best ball playoffs, has been a real struggle for my best ball teams. He's back tonight. The Wizards are largely fully healthy. Any rotation notes, Gallagher, on who this impacts for Washington?
No, pretty straightforward. We've seen his minutes should be pretty strong. We've seen, when these guys come back, Chris has Porzingis, etc. Beal did have a little bit of a cap, but he's had multiple hamstring strains that kind of cut him down. But yeah, expect full minutes. Just side note, Bradley Beal's role is so good right now. Ball handling is up, 3rd in drives in the NBA in his last 7 or 8 games, whatever it is. So he's been playing freaking awesome. Mentioned the no Mobley, the no Allen thing helps him out. But yeah, should be pretty concentrated. The Wizards kind of are playing a playoff-ish rotation overall. Monty Morris's minutes have been pretty strong. And then should add Johnny Davis in the mix out of the blue here. So in non-garbage time minutes, they played him. So I think he may actually find some minutes. But,
played well, too.
Certainly. He looked pretty good.
Well, let's ease off on the non-garbage time minutes. Do you want to scroll up in the box score to the list of jabronis that were out here for Detroit on this one?
Wow,
the whole game was garbage time.
Wow, the Eugene Omarui disrespect is real.
I mean, like this whole game was garbage time for Johnny Davis getting some action. So, yeah.
Well, we're saying played well relative to expectations. His expectations are like below the floor.
The expectations were very low. You should have heard some of the propaganda going on that broadcast about Johnny Davis.
Oh my god!
Because the Wizards broadcast team had been given strong instructions to highlight how good Johnny Davis was when he played against players of his age.
Oh,
that this year the reason he hasn't been as good is because he's not playing with.
Is that the reason? That's why?
Yeah. I was like, I was watching the broadcast and I was like, I was like, oh boy, someone got a memo that they got to get the information on Johnny Davis out.
Yeah.
All right.
Washington D.C. man, they got the gun lobby, they got tobacco lobby, they got a Johnny Davis lobby over there apparently.
The Johnny Davis lobby. It started. All right, let's move to Anthony Davis back for the Lakers. Another one of these matchups that's important from play-in to playoff seeding perspective. AD back tonight. Any concerns on restrictions or anything like that, Justin?
No, none whatsoever. We've talked about this on the show before, that the medical staff has met with the coaching staff, and what we're discussing resting him in back-to-backs. That was always part of the plan. Like 3 weeks ago, that was made public. I think he's going to sit one of the back-to-backs. I think April 4th, April 5th, I think they play a back-to-back. So they have one more that he should sit one of those games. So fully good to go. Great matchup, probably one of the best overall projections of the slate. Should just murder here. He's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, 30, 15, and 4 in the matchup against the Mavs when that was with LeBron in and got hurt. So I mean, he could go ham, as you alluded to. He is pain-free. He is 100%. He'll be good to go. Big minutes, need this game. Considered cover boying him as well, which I didn't want to put the mojo out there for a locker room trip, but absolutely love AD. I think he's probably arguably the highest upside in the slate. Him and Embiid.
I have one tweet in my drafts, always ready to go.
There you go. It's so good.
It's still there. It's always there.
Always there. Yeah,
it's perpetually there.
Save it.
Moving on to some other notes. Brandon Ingram, no limitations here. Gallagher, you had notes on anything else you want to leave on the Pelicans?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that he came out there and he looked good, like health-wise. Didn't play great. The Pelicans were terrible in this game, but a little surprising to see him, Brandon Ingram, hurt all the time, go out there and hang 38 minutes. So, great matchup. Actually not great. Jabari Smith's been really good. I took Tatum out of his element, so. I just want to note he looked healthy. Just on the flip side, that Alfred Şengün, listed with a strain, goes out there and plays full minutes. So just wanted to note those two things today.
Yeah, it's all
right.
It's funny how every big name player finds his way to get healthy against the Lakers. Except for
Luka upgrade
for Luka. Yeah. Sigh. Luka's injury, tough time. As Chaos Toffee note, if you're following along at home, Luka's injury for the best ball playoffs, not great for me. And drink responsibly on St. Patrick's Day here. All right, that'll do it for us. We've gone around the league from an injury perspective. As always, support the people who are supporting us. This show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts for money, running in addition to playoff contests that are running. The dance, get in on that. They also have NFL off-season best ball contests for the 2023-2024 season going. Any flavor of best ball you would like, the golf majors, the albatross, get in that. Whatever flavor of best ball you'd like, Underdog's got you. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tool to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at UnderdogFantasy.com. All right, myself and Gary Hartman will be behind the paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern tonight. We'll see if I can keep the run of flag plants going. Steph Curry on Wednesday night, Domantas Sabonis on Thursday night. We'll see what comes for Friday night slate, but make sure to join us there behind the paywall, 5 o'clock Eastern time on Establish the Show. As always, if you are uninterested in giving us your hard-earned dollars, we do ask for your hard-earned clicks. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, smash that like button and help feed the algorithm. You feed the algorithm, we'll feed you the injury information analysis you need each and every day. Happy